I never imagined that a simple question, a cold sentence, could tear apart everything I'd spent years building. "Let's get divorced," Ethan said, his voice as frigid as the winter morning we had been having, his words stabbing deep into my chest. This wasn't the first time he'd said those words. Over the years, I'd heard them more times than I'd like to admit, but this time, there was a coldness in his eyes, a finality that made me feel like I was drowning. I should have known. He had changed, slowly, gradually. The man I married, the one I trusted, had become a stranger in my own house. In my previous life, I had pleaded, begged, and tried to make him see reason, thinking it was a phase, a momentary lapse. But deep down, I knew the truth. He had already been cheating for years, and I was the fool. The truth slapped me in the face harder than any of his words ever could. When he asked for a divorce in the past, I had cried. I had clung to him, begging him to stay. I had cried over my son, Ryan, wondering how our family would cope. But that version of me, broken, desperate, was gone. I was someone different now, someone stronger, someone who had been given a second chance. This time, I didn't hesitate. "I agree," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the pain that was coursing through me. I saw his expression flicker for a moment, a brief flicker of surprise before he masked it with his usual arrogance. He was expecting a fight. He was expecting me to crumble like I had before. But I wasn't that woman anymore. His eyes narrowed. "Fine," he said, as if he had won. "But you'll leave with nothing. The house, the car, everything stays with me." He smirked, confident that I would give in. But I didn't. I didn't care about the material things anymore. I cared about something deeper, the dignity I had lost, the trust I had given to a man who had betrayed me. "Take it," I said coldly, surprising him again. "But you won't get Ryan." I saw his jaw tighten. "You think I'm giving up custody of my son just like that? You're delusional." But I had already seen through him. I had spent years being the devoted mother, sacrificing my own happiness to raise Ryan, to ensure he would have a future. I had given up my career, my friends, my life to tutor him, to ensure that he would make something of himself. And for what? To be discarded? To be thrown aside like a piece of trash when he was done with me? Ryan wasn't mine anymore. Not in the way he used to be. In my previous life, I had clung to him like a lifeline, even when he pushed me away. But now, with the clarity of someone who had been burned too many times, I knew the truth. He had been manipulated by Ethan, used as a pawn to get what they wanted, and I had been too blind to see it. "Fine," Ethan said, his voice a venomous hiss. "You'll get Ryan. But don't think for a second that he'll ever forgive you. He'll hate you for this." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The last time I had begged and pleaded for him to understand, it had only pushed him further away. This time, I wasn't begging. I wasn't pleading. I was done. Later that evening, after the papers had been signed, I was about to leave the Civil Affairs Bureau when I got a call from Ethan. His voice, as usual, was cold and controlled. "Emma," he said, "you know your mother-in-law is sick. She's in the hospital. I need you to take care of her." Something inside me snapped. I had spent years taking care of her, years of being the dutiful daughter-in-law, making sure she had everything she needed. But she had never appreciated me. Never once had she shown me the respect I deserved. She had always been the one to protect Ethan's interests, even when I was the one doing all the hard work, all the sacrificing. I had already seen through the game. Without me, Ethan couldn't manage his mother. He couldn't deal with her illness, with the responsibility. That was the only reason he was holding on. Not for love, but for convenience. I could see it clearly now. "I don't care," I said, my voice stone cold. "Take care of her yourself. I'm done." He didn't expect that. He didn't expect me to be this strong, this indifferent. His words came crashing back at me like a wave. "You'll regret this, Emma. You always regret everything." But I wasn't going to back down. Not anymore. I hung up the phone and walked away from the Civil Affairs Bureau with my head held high, the divorce papers in hand. As I left, I felt something shift inside me. This was it, the end of one life and the beginning of another. And this time, I wasn't going to make the same mistakes. The next morning, Ethan tried to manipulate me again. "You really think you can walk away from this and just leave everything behind?" He sneered when he saw me packing my things. "Why do you think I'm leaving, Ethan? So I don't have to put up with you anymore. So I can finally start living my life." And with that, I walked out the door, leaving behind the man I had once loved. I wasn't afraid of starting over. I wasn't afraid of being alone. I had already been through the worst. The first few days after the divorce were a blur. I moved into a small, quiet apartment, far away from the chaos of the life I had left behind. The apartment was nothing special, just a humble space that smelled faintly of fresh paint and stale air, but it was mine. It felt like freedom, even though I knew I wasn't truly free yet. I had taken the first step, but there was still so much more to do, so much unfinished business. Ethan had been furious. He had stormed out of the Civil Affairs Bureau that day, leaving behind his cold threats and empty promises. He thought he could manipulate me back into his life by using our son, Ryan, but I knew better now. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan's face, the coldness in his eyes, the way he had turned on me in my previous life. I had tried so hard to give him a future, to make him grateful, but he had used me just like his father had. The pain of betrayal was still raw, but this time, I wasn't going to let it consume me. The phone call came on the third day. It was from Ryan's school. My heart skipped a beat. "Mrs. Lynn, this is Ryan's homeroom teacher. Ryan hasn't shown up for school in days, and we're concerned. His grades are already slipping, and with how much work the students have right now, he can't afford to fall behind." My first instinct was to rush back, to make sure everything was okay, to take care of him. But I stopped myself. That wasn't my job anymore. Ryan was no longer my responsibility. I had tried to save him, to make him into someone who appreciated what I had done for him, but he had rejected me. "I'm sorry," I said calmly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ryan's father and I are divorced now. He has full custody. Please contact him directly." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, as if the teacher was surprised by my indifference. But I didn't care. The old me, the one who would have dropped everything to help Ryan, was gone. I hung up the phone and leaned back against the wall, taking a deep breath. I had made a choice. No more sacrifices. No more being used. For once, I was going to put myself first, but even as I made that decision, a nagging voice at the back of my mind whispered doubts. Was I doing the right thing? Was I being too harsh? That was the thing about betrayal. It didn't just break your trust, it broke you. The guilt gnawed at me, even though I knew I couldn't go back. Ryan had made his choice. He had sided with Ethan, and in the end, he had used me just like everyone else in that twisted family. But I wasn't going to dwell on it. I couldn't afford to. I had bigger things to focus on. I needed to get my life back together, to rebuild everything that had been destroyed. That afternoon, I took a walk around the neighborhood, trying to clear my mind. The city was bustling, people hurrying to and fro, lost in their own worlds. For a moment, I felt small, insignificant, like I was just another face in the crowd. But then I remembered why I was here, why I had made the choice to walk away from everything. I was doing this for me, no one else. As I walked past a cafe, I noticed a familiar face sitting at one of the outdoor tables. It was Lily, Ethan's ex-girlfriend, the one he had been with before he met me. I had heard whispers of her over the years, how she had been the love of his life before he had settled for me. I didn't want to deal with her. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. But as I turned to walk away, she spotted me. Her eyes lit up with recognition, and before I could escape, she stood up and waved me over. "Emma," she called, her voice too sweet to fake. "It's been ages. How are you?" I forced a smile, though I wanted to turn around and leave. "I'm fine, Lily. Just getting on with things." She motioned for me to sit. "You're so strong," she said, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. "I admire you, really. You've been through so much, and you're still standing." Her words felt like poison. I wanted to lash out, to tell her exactly what I thought of her and Ethan and their little affair. But I kept my composure, remembering my new resolve. I wasn't going to let her or Ethan get under my skin. "You've heard, right?" she continued, her smile widening. "Ethan and I are seeing each other again. He's been talking about you, Emma. You know, the past is the past. I think he really regrets everything that happened between you two. But I'm happy now. We're happy." A sick laugh bubbled up in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I had never liked Lily. She had always thought of herself as superior, as if she had some claim on Ethan that I would never understand. But now, I saw her for what she truly was, just another part of the web of lies Ethan had spun. "That's nice," I said, my voice tight. But I'm not really interested in hearing about your relationship with Ethan, Lily. I think I've had enough of him for a lifetime. She tilted her head, as if genuinely surprised by my indifference. But I didn't care. She was nothing to me now, and neither was Ethan. As I walked away from the cafe, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was over. Ethan, Lily, Ryan, everything that had bound me to that family was gone. And in its place, I had something I hadn't had in years: freedom. The next few days were quiet. I spent my time exploring the city, enjoying the freedom that had once seemed so distant. There was a strange peace in being alone, in not having to cater to anyone else's needs or expectations. For the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling suffocated by my own life. But even in my newfound freedom, there were moments when the weight of everything that had happened still lingered. Ethan's betrayal was a wound that would take time to heal, and as much as I tried to ignore it, I couldn't escape the truth of my past. I thought about Ryan often. There were times when I almost reached for my phone, tempted to call him and check on him. But then I remembered what had happened in my previous life, the way he had turned on me, the way he had betrayed me with the same coldness as his father. And I couldn't bring myself to care anymore. It was then that I received a call from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat as I picked up the phone. Was it Ethan? Was it Ryan? I didn't know, but I couldn't avoid it forever. Hello, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Emma, it's me, came the voice on the other end. It was Ryan. I felt a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, pain, and something I couldn't quite name. What do you want, Ryan? I asked, my voice harder than I intended. He hesitated, his voice shaky. I need to talk to you. I'm sorry. I've been a jerk. Please, can we just talk? I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him to leave me alone, to stop playing games with my emotions. But a part of me, an old part, the part that had always wanted to believe in him, wanted to hear him out. I don't know if there's anything left to say, I replied, my voice tight. You've made your choices, Ryan. And so have I. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Mom, he said, his voice breaking. I messed up. I know. I hurt you. And I regret it. But I need you, Mom. Please. I'm sorry. Hearing him say those words, hearing the crack in his voice, hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I felt the walls I had built around myself begin to crumble. But I stopped myself. This was the same game Ethan had played, the same manipulation. They always came back when they needed something. What do you want, Ryan? I asked, my tone flat. I don't have time for this anymore. I'm not your caretaker. You have a father for that. Please, just hear me out, he begged. Grandma's. She's not doing well. I know you're angry with me, but I can't do this alone. I'm asking for your help, Mom. Please. The mention of my mother-in-law, of the woman who had never cared about me, who had treated me like a servant for years, was like a slap in the face. But I had to remind myself that I wasn't the same person anymore. I'm sorry, I said, my voice steady now, but I'm done with this. You have Ethan. You don't need me. But his voice faltered. She's really sick, Emma. Don't you care? Don't you care that she's in pain? For a brief second, I felt a pang of guilt, but it was fleeting. My mother-in-law had never cared about me. She had always been a tool for Ethan's manipulation. I had sacrificed everything for her, and what did I get in return? Nothing but disdain. She was not my responsibility. I'm sorry, Ryan, I said again, my voice growing firmer. I can't help you. You made your choices, and so did I. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end, but I didn't wait for him to speak again. I hung up the phone and set it down, my heart pounding in my chest. The guilt that had threatened to overwhelm me earlier disappeared, replaced by a strange sense of finality. I had made my choice. I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I wasn't going to let anyone, not Ethan or Ryan or anyone else, dictate my life. I was done. The next few days passed in a blur. I kept myself busy working, going for walks, meeting new people. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. But that didn't mean I was completely free from the shadows of my past. Ethan didn't give up easily. He began showing up at my apartment, knocking on the door late at night, trying to get me to talk to him. But I ignored him. I didn't need to hear his excuses anymore. I had already heard them 1,000 times. One evening, when I was out for a walk, I bumped into him. He was standing in front of my building, his hands shoved into his pockets, looking as smug as ever. Emma, he called out when he saw me. We need to talk. I didn't stop walking. I didn't even look at him. I'm not interested, Ethan, I said, my voice cold. Whatever you have to say, I don't want to hear it. But he followed me. Come on, don't be like this, he said, his voice a little desperate. You think I don't care? You think I'm just going to let you walk away like this? We're family, Emma. I stopped walking then, turning to face him. The anger that had been simmering inside me for so long bubbled up to the surface. Family? You're not family. You're a liar, a cheater, and you're nothing to me now. Ethan's face hardened. You regret this, he spat. You regret pushing me away. You can't do this on your own, Emma. You'll see. I stared at him, the words he had said to me in the past echoing in my mind. You can't survive without me. You'll fail without me. You're nothing without me. I shook my head. No, Ethan, you're the one who's nothing, and you'll never see me again. Without another word, I turned and walked away. I could feel his eyes on my back, but I didn't look back. Not this time. I had made my decision. I was finally free, and no one, not Ethan, not Ryan, no one was going to take that away from me. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my past life began to feel more and more like a distant memory. Every day was a new beginning, a fresh start that I had once thought impossible. The emptiness that had consumed me for so long slowly began to fill with something else, strength. I could feel myself changing. I was no longer that woman who had been walked all over, the one who had let her life be dictated by others. I had always been defined by the roles I had played in others' lives. I was Ethan's wife, Ryan's mother, the dutiful daughter-in-law. But now I was simply Emma, just me. And it felt good. It felt powerful. But the past never stays buried for long. One morning, as I was sipping my coffee, my phone buzzed. A message from Lucy. She was my oldest friend, the one person who had always stood by me, even when I had been too blind to see the truth about my marriage. I opened her message, and my heart stopped. Emma, you need to see this, she had written. Ryan's posted another video. It's going viral. I immediately clicked on the link she sent. Ryan's face appeared on the screen, his eyes red and swollen from crying. He looked broken, desperate. Mom, he said in a shaky voice, I'm sorry. I know I messed up, but I need you. I need you to come back. Dad, he's not the man you think he is. Please, Mom, I'm begging you. Don't leave me. His words sent a pang of guilt through me, but I quickly crushed it down. This was the same Ryan who had pushed me off that building in my past life. This was the same Ryan who had betrayed me for his own gain. He had learned nothing. But then the next part of the video made my blood run cold. Ryan switched the camera angle, and the view shifted to Ethan, standing behind him, smirking. You know what to do, son. Ethan's voice was thick with satisfaction. Get her back. Tell her whatever you need to. She's weak. She'll believe you. I felt like I had been hit by a truck. They were working together again. The lies, the manipulation, it hadn't stopped. Ethan had orchestrated this. He was using Ryan, twisting his son's desperation to reel me back in. I couldn't believe I had ever thought I could trust them. I watched the video until the end, where Ryan pleaded again. Please, Mom, I'm sorry. I know I've messed up, but we need you. I need you. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. I had thought I was free. I had thought I was strong enough to let go. But this was different. Ryan had never truly wanted to be with me. He had always wanted something from me. And now he was using the same tactics to manipulate me back into their web. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. There was only one way forward now. I had to take control. I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them manipulate me again. I tapped out a response on my phone, my fingers flying over the keys. I knew what I had to do. Ryan, I've seen the video, and I'm done. You and your father will never use me again. I'm not coming back. You can't manipulate me into being your pawn. You made your choice when you sided with him. Now, you'll live with the consequences. I hit send, not even pausing to second guess myself. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, but it was also the clearest. Ryan was no longer my responsibility. Ethan was no longer my problem. I was done with both of them. But as I set my phone down, a feeling I couldn't shake washed over me. A familiar feeling, the cold certainty of betrayal. It wasn't just Ryan's words that had hurt. It was the realization that I had spent years sacrificing my happiness for people who never cared about me, and now it was my turn. I knew what I had to do next. That night, I couldn't sleep. The video replayed in my mind over and over. Ryan's pleading, Ethan's smugness, it was all too much. I couldn't just let them walk away unscathed, thinking they had won. I had been pushed to my limit, and I knew there was only one way to settle this. I stood up and walked to my desk, where I had kept the divorce papers, the ones I had signed, the ones that marked the end of my marriage. But there was one more thing I had to do. I opened my laptop and began typing. It didn't take long for the words to come. A carefully crafted email, one that would change everything. I had evidence. Ethan's affair with Lily, the one he had tried so desperately to hide. I had everything I needed to destroy him, to expose him for the liar and cheat he was. But I wasn't just doing it for me. I was doing it for the woman I had once been too forgiving, too weak to stand up for myself. I hit send, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction, but also the weight of what I was about to do. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. It was about showing Ethan and Ryan that I wasn't the woman they had once controlled. The next morning, the email had already begun circulating within Ethan's company. I knew it wouldn't take long for the news to spread. He had made so many enemies over the years, people who would use his downfall for their own gain. And now, he was going to pay the price. But what I hadn't expected was the phone call that came an hour later. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Emma, a voice said, cold and calm. You think you've won? You're just playing into my hands. You won't escape this. You won't escape me. It was Ethan. I could hear the venom in his voice. You think you've destroyed me, but you're wrong, he continued. You can't escape your past. You'll always be tied to me. Always. I smiled, though my heart was racing. I'm done with you, Ethan. You've already lost. It's over. He didn't say anything else before hanging up. But I knew it wasn't the last I'd hear from him. The storm had only just begun. I spent the next few days feeling a strange mix of exhilaration and anxiety. Ethan's phone call still echoed in my mind, his voice dripping with malice. The part of me that wanted to stay calm and collected kept telling me that I had done the right thing, that I was finally freeing myself. But there was also the part of me that couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Ethan wouldn't let this go. He never did. The phone call had been a warning. I knew that. He was threatening me, trying to manipulate me into doubting my own choices. But I wasn't the same woman who had been trapped in that toxic relationship. I was stronger, more self-aware. And no matter how much he tried to worm his way back into my life, I wouldn't let him. The phone rang again. My heart skipped. It was an unknown number, but this time, I didn't hesitate to answer it. Emma, came a cold voice, unmistakably Ethan's. I know what you did. You think this is over? You think I'll let you ruin everything I've worked for? I stayed silent for a moment, my mind racing. You already ruined it yourself, I finally said, my voice steady. You made your choices. All of this, every last bit of it, is on you. You think you can just walk away? You think I'll let you disappear without consequences? Ethan spat, his words laced with anger. I could almost picture him, standing there, fists clenched, rage building. But I wasn't scared anymore. There was nothing left for him to threaten me with. You regret this, Emma, he said, his voice dripping with venom. You can't destroy me. You've already ruined your own life. I'll make sure of it. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, a deep sense of finality settling over me. You can't destroy what's already been broken, I said, hanging up without another word. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. For the first time in my life, I was free from his manipulation, free from his games. But even as I hung up, I knew the storm wasn't over. Ethan was dangerous, and he wouldn't let go so easily. And Ryan, well, Ryan was another matter entirely. The days passed, and I focused on rebuilding my life. I took up new hobbies, reconnected with friends I had neglected for years, and most importantly, I learned how to enjoy life again. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't worrying about anyone else. I wasn't worrying about Ethan or Ryan. I was taking care of myself, and it felt good. Then as the weeks were on, the phone call came. It was from Lucy again. Her voice was tense, filled with urgency. Emma, you need to see this, she said. It's about Ryan. I felt a wave of unease wash over me, but I forced myself to stay calm. What happened? What's going on with him? Just look at the video. Emma, Lucy said, her voice tight. It's going viral. You need to know what he's saying. I clicked the link she sent me, my heart pounding in my chest. This was the last thing I needed. But as the video loaded, I was not prepared for what I saw. Ryan was standing in front of the camera, tears streaming down his face. His voice cracked as he spoke. Mom, please, I don't know how to fix things, but I know I've been wrong. I know I've hurt you, but I'm begging you, please come back. I'm so sorry. I can't do this without you. I need you, Mom. I need you more than ever. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just his words that hurt, it was the desperation in his eyes. He was playing me again, I realized, but this time, I wasn't sure I could ignore the ache in my chest. Ryan was my son. Despite everything, he was still my son. I clicked on the next part of the video, and my stomach sank as Ethan's face appeared. You see, Emma, he said, his voice filled with mock sympathy. Ryan can't do this without you. He needs you. He's begging you. And if you don't come back, you'll lose him forever. This is your last chance. The manipulation was unmistakable. Ethan knew exactly how to play me, how to pull at the strings of my heart. But I wasn't the same woman anymore. I knew better than to fall for their tricks. I watched the video all the way through, my fists clenched. When it ended, I sat there, staring at the screen, a strange mix of anger and sorrow boiling inside me. This was it. This was the moment I had been dreading. Ryan, my son, was caught in this web of lies and manipulation. But now, it wasn't just Ethan I had to deal with. It was Ryan too. I thought about everything I had done for him. The sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the years I had spent pouring my heart into his future. And this was how he repaid me. I had no choice. I had to make one final decision. I wasn't going to let myself be manipulated anymore. I wasn't going to let Ryan destroy me like he had done in my previous life. I picked up my phone and dialed Lucy's number. Lucy, I need your help, I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. I'm going to make sure they understand what they've done to me. I'm going to make sure they pay for what they've done. Emma, are you sure? This is going to get ugly, she warned, her voice filled with concern. I'm done playing nice, Lucy. It's time for them to see the consequences of their actions. I ended the call and sat back, staring at the blank screen of my phone. I had given everything to Ethan and Ryan. I had sacrificed my life for them. And for what? To be discarded, betrayed, and manipulated? No more. The days that followed felt like a build-up to something inevitable. I could feel the tension in the air, thick with anticipation. Ethan and Ryan had pushed me to the edge, and now I had no choice but to take control, to finally put an end to their games. The power had shifted, and they had no idea what was coming. I spent the next few days gathering evidence, doing everything I could to ensure that when the time came, there would be no turning back. I had nothing left to lose. I had already lost everything: my marriage, my son's trust, my self-respect. But now, I was going to take back the one thing that truly mattered: my dignity. I knew I needed to act fast. Ethan had always been the master manipulator, and if I hesitated, he would find a way to turn the situation to his advantage. The clock was ticking, and I couldn't afford to waste any more time. The first thing I did was gather the documents I had collected over the years: texts, emails, photos, anything that proved Ethan's affair with Lily. I had seen the evidence before, but now I had a clear purpose: to make sure he paid for what he had done. I wasn't just going to sit back and let them tear apart my life. I made a few calls to some of my old contacts, people who had worked with Ethan, people who knew the dirty secrets he had tried to bury. One by one, they confirmed what I already knew: Ethan had lied, cheated, and manipulated his way through every aspect of our lives. It wasn't just about his affair with Lily, it was about everything: his career, his reputation, his marriage. To me, all of it had been built on lies. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. I wasn't going to let Ethan walk away scot-free, not after everything he had done. He had used me for years, manipulating my love, my loyalty, my sacrifice. Now, I was going to show him just how much damage a broken heart could cause. When everything was in place, I contacted a lawyer. I knew I had to be strategic. If I went in blind, Ethan would crush me. But if I played my cards right, if I waited until the moment was perfect, I could turn the tables. This wasn't just about a divorce anymore. It was about exposing Ethan for the fraud he truly was. The lawyer was intrigued. though slightly apprehensive. "This could get ugly, Emma," she warned. "If we go public with this, there will be no turning back." "I'm ready for it," I said, my voice unwavering. "I've been through the worst already. What's left to fear?" She nodded slowly. "Then we'll move forward, but be prepared. Ethan won't go down without a fight." I was prepared for that. I had been fighting my entire life. What was one more battle? The following week, I received a call from Ethan. He had finally realized that his manipulation wasn't working anymore, that his usual tactics of control had no power over me. His voice, when he spoke, was laced with frustration. "Emma, you've made your point, but you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You think you can destroy me with some petty revenge? You'll regret this. I promise you." I could almost hear him pacing, the anger in his voice growing louder. "I'm not trying to destroy you, Ethan," I replied coolly. "I'm just making sure you finally face the consequences of your actions." I could feel his irritation through the phone, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to appease him. I wasn't afraid anymore. "You'll regret this, Emma," he repeated, his voice colder now. "You've made a huge mistake. I won't let you get away with this." I didn't respond. Instead, I ended the call and set my phone down, a sense of calm washing over me. He had made threats like this before, but they didn't scare me anymore. I was done being afraid. The next morning, I got the call I had been waiting for. My lawyer informed me that everything was in place, that we could proceed with the legal action against Ethan. The evidence was damning. There was no way he could get out of this without losing everything. But as I prepared for the fight ahead, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. My son, Ryan, was still out there, caught in the middle of all of this. He had been manipulated by Ethan just like I had. The difference was, I had seen the truth. Ryan, for all his mistakes, still hadn't. I couldn't help but think of the days when I had worked so hard for him, when I had given up my own happiness just to see him succeed. And now, I had to let go of that dream. I had to let go of the hope that he would ever appreciate everything I had done for him. But there was no turning back now. Ethan and Ryan had made their choices. I had to make mine. The day of the hearing arrived faster than I had expected. I stood in front of the courtroom, feeling strangely calm. The lawyer had prepared me for what was to come, but I didn't need any reminders. I had already made up my mind. Ethan's lawyers showed up, armed with their usual tricks, their usual lies. But this time, it wasn't going to work. This time, I had the truth on my side. And the truth was powerful. As the proceedings began, I felt the weight of everything that had happened in my life, every betrayal, every moment of sacrifice pressing down on me. But it wasn't a burden anymore. It was fuel. Ethan sat across the room, his cold eyes fixed on me. But I didn't look at him. I wasn't looking for his approval anymore. I wasn't looking for anything from him. I was doing this for me. The courtroom was a blur of motion, voices rising and falling around me, but I remained calm. The lawyer spoke on my behalf, presenting the evidence with precision. Ethan's defense team tried to poke holes in everything, but they couldn't touch the truth. Not this time. I could feel their frustration, the growing panic in Ethan's eyes as the case unfolded. The facade was crumbling, piece by piece, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Ethan had always believed he could control everything. He had used manipulation, lies, and even his own son to keep me trapped. But now, he was the one who was trapped. Every lie he'd told, every betrayal he'd hidden, was coming to light. The affair with Lily, who, by the way, had conveniently shown up as a witness on my behalf, wasn't just some forgotten detail anymore. It was a devastating blow to his reputation. His career, which had been built on deceit, was starting to look more like a house of cards. And I wasn't done yet. As I sat there in the courtroom, listening to the back and forth, a quiet sense of triumph settled over me. I had waited for this moment for so long, and now it was finally here. The moment when Ethan's lies would no longer protect him. The moment when I could finally reclaim everything he had taken from me. Then it came. The final blow. Ryan's voice filled the room, his words sharp, angry, and desperate. "I'm not going to let you destroy my family," he shouted from the stand. He was trembling, tears streaking down his face as he locked eyes with me. "You've already taken everything from us. You've taken my dad. Don't take me too." My heart ached at the sight of him, but I couldn't let my emotions get the best of me. This wasn't about guilt anymore. It wasn't about my past failures. As a mother, this was about justice. And Ryan had to learn that the truth always comes with consequences. You don't get to control this anymore, Ryan, I said, my voice steady but firm. You've chosen your side, and you've done things that can't be undone. This isn't just about you or me anymore. This is about what's right. Ryan's eyes flickered with a mix of anger and confusion, but there was something else there. Too, fear. Fear that he was losing me for good. Fear that I was never going to be the person he could manipulate again. He turned to Ethan, who had been silent for most of the proceedings, but now stood up. His voice was low, filled with venom. You've ruined everything. He spat at me. You think you're some hero in this story, but you're just a woman scorned. You'll never get what you want. You'll regret it. I wasn't listening anymore. Ethan's threats didn't have the same power over me that they once did. I had faced worse than him in my life, and I wasn't afraid anymore. I don't regret a single thing, I said, my voice cutting through the noise of the courtroom. Not anymore. This is where it ends, Ethan. For both of us. There was a long silence. The air was thick with tension. Ethan, Ryan, and I had been in this battle for so long, but now it was finally drawing to a close. I had fought for my dignity, for my future, and now it was time to take the final step. A few days later, the verdict came. Ethan lost. The judge ruled in my favor, granting me full custody of the assets, the house, and most importantly, freedom from the hold he had had on me for so long. When the gavel fell, a strange stillness settled over me. The weight I had been carrying for so long suddenly lifted, as if the chains that had bound me to Ethan had finally been broken. There was no more fear, no more shame. The media didn't waste any time covering the scandal. Ethan's affair was plastered across every headline, his career in ruins. Lily, his co-conspirator, was fired from her job, and rumors of the affair spread like wildfire. But none of that mattered to me anymore. For the first time in years, I felt a true sense of peace. The battle had been brutal, but it had been necessary. I had finally taken control of my own life. The days after the verdict were filled with a mix of reflection and relief. I spent time alone, thinking about everything I had been through, about the woman I had been, and the woman I had become. The strength I had discovered in myself during this fight was something I had never known existed. There were moments when I thought of Ryan. He was still my son, despite everything. I wondered if he would ever understand the reasons behind my choices, but I also knew that I couldn't keep trying to save someone who didn't want to be saved. Ryan had made his choices, and I had to let him live with them. I moved forward, focusing on myself for the first time in years. I found a new purpose, a new passion. I began working again, diving into a career I had once abandoned. I made new friends, and most importantly, I took care of myself. I had spent so many years putting everyone else's needs before my own, but now I was learning how to live for myself, and it felt good. But Ethan wasn't finished. A week after the verdict, I got another call. This time, it was from an unknown number. I had learned to ignore his calls, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Emma, Ethan's voice came through, rough and defeated. I've lost everything. I'm ruined. I felt no sympathy for him, but I couldn't deny the twisted satisfaction that bloomed inside me. You didn't just lose everything, Ethan, I said, my voice calm, detached. You lost your family, your son, and now you're facing the consequences of your actions. I didn't want this, Emma, he said, his voice cracking. I didn't want to lose you. The words were hollow, empty. I wasn't buying into his guilt. This time, I'm done, Ethan. You can't hurt me anymore. You've already lost. And with that, I hung up the phone for the last time. The finality of the gesture sent a wave of relief through me. I had taken back my power. I had won. A few days later, as I walked down the street, I looked up at the sky, taking in the fresh air. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of true freedom. The road ahead was mine to walk. No one was going to control my life anymore. I was no longer the woman who had been trapped in a marriage built on lies. I was free, and nothing would ever hold me back again. The weeks after my final separation from Ethan passed in a whirlwind. I had never known such peace. It was a strange, bittersweet kind of peace, the type that comes when you've been through hell and somehow managed to come out the other side stronger, yet scarred. I had lost so much over the years, but now I had the one thing I had craved for so long: control over my own life. I spent most of my days adjusting to this new life, one where I didn't have to worry about anyone but myself. I had started my own business, something I had always dreamed of before everything had spiraled out of control. The process wasn't easy, but I was determined. I worked tirelessly, pouring my energy into something that was mine and mine alone. It felt good to finally chase my own dreams, to make decisions that were for my future, not anyone else's. There were moments of doubt, of course. It wasn't always easy to shake the ghosts of my past. Ethan's face still haunted me in the quiet moments. The way he had always been so sure of himself, so certain that he could bend me to his will. And then there was Ryan, my son. I couldn't escape the fact that he was still my flesh and blood. No matter how much pain he had caused me, I didn't hear from him again after the hearing. I knew he was still angry, still hurt, but part of me wondered if he was beginning to realize that I had done what I had for him too, to teach him a lesson in respect, in responsibility. But I couldn't hold on to that hope forever. Ryan had chosen his side, and as much as it pained me, I knew I had to let him go. And so, life went on. One quiet evening, about a month after the dust had settled, I was at home, sitting by the window with a book in hand, when my phone buzzed. The message was from Lucy. Emma, I know you've been through a lot, but you need to see this. It's about Ryan. Please call me. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. What now? I couldn't ignore it. Even after everything, Ryan was still my son. I could only hope that the situation hadn't spiraled out of control completely. I called her immediately. Lucy, what happened? I asked, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. Just watch the video, she said, her voice low and worried. I clicked the link she sent. My stomach twisted into knots as Ryan's face appeared on the screen, the same tear-streaked face I had seen before. But this time, there was something different in his eyes, a look I hadn't seen in years. It was regret. Mom, Ryan's voice cracked, full of desperation. I was wrong. I see that now. I've ruined everything. I pushed you away, and I don't know how to fix it, but I want to. I need to. Please come back. Please help me. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. I didn't want to fall for this again. I didn't want to be that vulnerable, that naive woman who had been manipulated so easily. But I also knew the truth. Ryan was still my son. And no matter what had happened, no matter how deeply he had hurt me, I couldn't completely shut him out. The video continued, but this time, something broke in me. The anger, the frustration, it all melted away. I didn't know if this was a genuine apology or another manipulation, but I wasn't sure it mattered anymore. What mattered was that Ryan was hurting, and despite everything, I was still his. Mother, I'm sorry, Ryan said again, his voice pleading. Please, Mom, I need you. I can't do this without you. I sat there for a long time after the video ended, staring at the phone. The silence was deafening. The next day, I went to see him. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if Ryan would truly be different, if this was just another attempt to win my sympathy. But I had to know. I had to see him for myself. When I arrived at his place, I hesitated at the door. The sound of muffled voices drifted through the cracks, but it was still, too still. With one last deep breath, I knocked. Ryan opened the door, his eyes wide with surprise, but there was something else in them too. Guilt, regret, maybe even a little hope. Mom, he whispered, almost as if he didn't believe I was really there. I took a step inside, my heart heavy with the weight of everything between us. I had spent so much time resenting him, pushing him away, but now, I didn't know what to say. I watched your video, I said quietly, but I need to hear this from you in person. I need to know if you're serious, Ryan. This can't just be another one of your games. This is the last time. Do you understand me? No more lies. Ryan nodded quickly, his eyes pleading. I know, Mom. I know I hurt you. I've been a fool. I've been selfish. And I don't blame you for hating me. But I want to make it right. I've been going through hell without you, and I can't keep pretending like I don't care. I do. I care. And I want to fix this. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but there was a part of me that still didn't trust him. I wasn't sure if I would ever trust him completely again. But one thing was clear, he was hurting. And in the end, he was still my son. I didn't say anything for a long time. Instead, I walked over to him and pulled him into a hug. For the first time in what felt like forever, we held each other. He clung to me, as if he knew he was on the verge of losing me for good. "I love you, Ryan," I whispered, "but this has to be different. No more lies. No more manipulation. If you want a relationship with me, you're going to have to work for it. I can't do this alone anymore." "I understand, Mom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll do whatever it takes." As I left his apartment later that day, I felt a sense of cautious hope. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't the way I had always imagined it, but it was a start. I had given him the chance to prove that he was truly capable of change, that he could learn from the mistakes he had made. And in that moment, I realized that perhaps, just perhaps, we could rebuild what we had lost. But I knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, misunderstandings, and maybe even more pain. But I was prepared for that, because this time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else but me. I had already walked through fire. What was a little more heat? The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk. And this time, I wasn't afraid.